The agenda, we're down to number 11, which is correspondence to and comments from school committee members. So I'd like to start on my left. Ms. Peters, do you have any correspondence or comments about any issues around town?
I do, actually.
You do?
I really didn't want to go first either.
I can go first. Would you like me
to? Sure.
Yeah, sure.
I'll save.
Okay, you'll be the closer?
I'll be the closer. I'm the
closing act?
Yes, right, I'm the most senior person on this, so I'd like to finish it off.
So I guess just to make a few comments, I might even dive in later on. But as everybody knows, there was quite a editorial in the Hull Times this past Thursday or Friday. I actually was away and I read it online. I actually contacted Dr. Terrell while I was in Chicago. But I have a couple of comments. I think that that editorial, it kind of went from 0 to 100 awfully fast. And there has been some preliminary discussions with the Capital Planning Committee, and we've been in the process of trying to schedule a meeting with them to discuss some of the issues that were brought up in that editorial page. Some of my concerns regarding this overall consolidation of the schools is that there's some hidden costs here. I mean, I think on the surface, if I'm Joe Bag of Donuts and I read the Hull Times editorial, I might sit there and go, wow, you know, that's such a great idea. We need to do that. Well, there's a whole bunch of other issues that you need to take into consideration because there's other impacts, such as, you know, there may be an impact with the MSBA. Do we owe, does the town, because we accepted funds from the state to renovate that school, do we have to pay any portion of that money back to the state? So we got to consider that. What is the impact on transportation? Do we need to add more buses? If we're going to move the 6th and 7th grade, are we going to move just the 6th grade to the Jacob School? That's another thing. We haven't even talked about, you know, what would be the grade configuration. So that's something to consider because we may have to add additional buses. In addition, at the Jacob School, they do not have science labs. Science labs are very, very expensive to build. You have to bring in gas and all kinds of other equipment into those spaces. And currently, we do not have that at the Jacob School. So that would be an impact on, you know, a cost factor here. The other thing that we have to look at is, in concert with the Department of Education, is do we need locker rooms? Currently, the Jacob School does not have locker rooms. They do have locker rooms at the Memorial School. I'm not sure if there's a requirement for lockers for 6th and 7th graders, but that's something to look at. If we need lockers and we need showers, there's an expense there to look at. There's also, we have to also consider special education costs. Currently, we have the collaborative up at the Jacob School, so we get rent from them. They discount our tuition, so that's a savings to the school district. In addition to that tuition that we save, in addition to that, we don't have to transport students to Norwell or to some other communities. If we are going to bring up the 6th and 7th grade up to the Jacob School, we now are no longer going to get that credit, which is, I don't know what that dollar figure is. I'm sure Dr. Terrell has it. But in addition to that, we'll have to transport those students to a different district. That's going to cost us money. And special education, transportation, believe me, folks, is very expensive. And you'd be surprised how much that costs. In addition, there's going to be some moving expenses. All the folks that are from Town Hall are going to have to move to the Memorial School. We're going to have to move all our folks out. Who's paying for the moving costs? What is the plan for the Town Hall? I've never heard any type of discussion as to, once the town were to take over the middle school, what we're going to do with the Town Hall. Are we going to renovate it? Are we going to tear it down? Are we going to sell it and take those funds to help offset some of the expenses as far as building science labs and talk about some of the other things that I mentioned earlier? We haven't talked about that. What's going to go on with the library? We have the town library. There's talk about moving the library into the middle school. Well, what are we going to do with the library? Are we going to sell that piece of property? Are we going to put another department in there? Those are discussions we need to have. The other thing is, I'm not trying to bash anybody here, but since I've been in this town, I've never seen any budget line item on the town side talking about maintenance to buildings. The reason why we got here is because we did not maintain the town hall. So now we want to turn over Memorial School to the town, guaranteed within 5 to 10 years we'll be back here again because the town didn't maintain the middle school. That place will be falling apart. So what's the plan to maintain it? Are we going to put money aside? I mean, that's fine if we decide to turn it over, but I want to know what the big plan is. What is the plan to maintain the middle school? I think as a resident and a taxpayer, you folks that are out there in TV land, you should want to know that. How are you going to maintain that school? That's fine to turn it over, but we got to know, there's HVAC issues. That's the other thing is you start looking at some of those spaces, the architects are going to have to come in. Those spaces are built for classrooms. They're not built for offices. So when you start splitting up those classrooms and making offices, that changes the HVAC system in those spaces. There's a cost to retrofit that space. We just spent $60,000 on an energy management system for that school. How's that going to react to breaking up those classrooms into spaces? I'm not quite sure. That's for somebody a lot smarter than me that has an engineering degree, but somebody's got to look at that. So there's a whole bunch of different questions. Again, I think that editorial, although it was kind of in good spirit as far as trying to get it on people's radars and get the conversation started, which obviously it's had an impact because I'm talking about it here, and I'm sure these folks here to my left and right are going to talk about it. But I just think that it kind of jumped the gun because there were some discussions, preliminary discussions, and there are a lot of things to consider. And it's not just a great, like, hey, let's go do this because we're going to save money and we're going to avoid cost by having to build a new town hall. There's some costs that are going to be incurred by the town to do this. So it's a big, long discussion. It's not something, some of these people say they work for these Fortune 500 companies. Well, if you work for a Fortune 500 company, you wouldn't want to just make a decision. You want to kind of do an analysis of the whole situation and get all your costs down. So with that, I will not take up any more of your time. I'll turn it over to Ms. Peters. And
I'm
we'll
going to wait.
go down the line.
I'm going last.
Nope, we're going to go last, so sorry about that. But,
The only part that you did a great job, David, articulating all the what-ifs and all the costs. My concern would also be developmentally. This high school is made for a 9 to 12. I know that Abington is going to make a junior senior high school, but the planning on that is tremendous. You have to have separate entrances. You have to have this is a high school, and this was made for a high school. It was not made for a junior senior high school. And that's just another.
19-year-olds in there.
What was that?
We have 19-year-olds at the high school.
Yes. And that's the concern also. So, but that was my little 2 cents.
okay, good.
Can I take that?
Sure.
My perspective is this. I had asked questions of Dr. Tyrrell, and then I thought about it. I don't know why I'm trying to defend this. I was elected onto a school committee. I'm looking out for the students in this district. That's all I care about. I pay taxes like everyone on this board. I don't want my taxes to go up. I really, really don't. But my position is to look out for the students in this district. And until someone comes to me with incontrovertible proof that this is in the best interests of the students in this district, that they will be safe and continue to get a stellar education, I just don't want to hear anything else. No one has come to me with any proof. No one's come to me with any research. No one has the expertise that the people in this room have, the combined education of the people at central office. I think I'll listen to those experts before I'm going to listen to possibly a study that might or might not be biased towards giving away a building. I am not in the position to give this away. I don't think it's in the best interest of these students. My job is to ensure safety and education, and that's what I'm standing firm by.
Eric?
All right. I actually wrote down exactly what I wanted to say, so I said exactly what I wanted to. And Alan, if you would like a copy, that way I won't be misquoted. I wanted to start off, since Ms. Owen started off with a quote, I wanted to start off with a quote, which is that nothing dies harder than a bad idea. It's Julia Cameron, who's an artist. When I first ran for a seat on the school committee in 2010, one of the hot button issues was whether we should close the Memorial Middle School and turn the building over to the town to use as a new town hall, senior center, and library. I thought it was a terrible idea at the time and did not hesitate to speak my mind. Quite frankly, how could the Memorial Middle School be surplus less than 8 years after we spent $12 million to renovate it? In the late 1990s, Hull made a commitment to educational excellence, voting to renovate its 3 schools at a cost of nearly $59 million, $37 million of which was paid for by the state. Additional space was added to both Hull High School and Jacobs Elementary School. The investment in education greatly improved Hull's reputation and drew new people to town, my wife and I included. This investment has continued paying dividends in the form of improved student achievement. Now, Memorial Middle School was rededicated in the fall of 2002, followed by Hull High School in 2006 and Jacobs Elementary School in 2008. For reasons that strike me as no less than bizarre, some factions in town began plotting to take over Memorial Middle School before the renovations were even completed. Some members of the school building committee, which advocated for and oversaw the renovations, began telling us that we really didn't need all 3 school buildings after all. People who watched Town Hall disintegrate around them over the past 20 years while doing nothing suddenly found their pain-free solution to the town's fiscal problems. Now, at the request of town manager and the Board of Selectmen, the school department created a 12-member long-term space needs committee to consider the issue. After meeting in 5 public sessions between November 2009 and June 2010 and obtaining 2 enrollment projections, the committee issued a report recommending against closing Memorial Middle School. Under the circumstances, the school committee chose not to pursue the matter further. However, this exercise was not without consequence. Memorial Middle School saw significant turnover in administrators and teachers concerned about their futures at a school that many wanted closed. Parents and children already concerned about program cuts moved on to private schools. Now, Memorial Middle School, along with Hull High School and Jacobs Elementary School, has rebounded from this experience and the difficult cuts that came from the fiscal 2010 budget. Several of those cuts have not been restored nearly 5 years later, though. In spite of these obstacles, our schools have continued to produce results. Hull High School was named to the AP Honor Roll in 2011 for increasing participation in advanced placement classes while at the same time improving test results. In 2012, Hull High School was awarded a National Blue Ribbon as an exemplary improving school by the U.S. Department of Education, based in part upon great improvement in MCAS scores. In 2013, Jacobs Elementary School obtained Level 1 status under the No Child Left Behind law for narrowing proficiency gaps between students. Now, unfortunately, the rumor mill is percolating again, and it appears that certain people in town want to try again to take Memorial Middle School. I say appears because no one has actually discussed the matter with the school committee, which happens to comprise the only 5 people that will actually decide the fate of Memorial Middle School. The Capital Planning Committee invited us to a meeting in November 2013, but canceled at the last minute. They have yet to extend another invitation. Instead, they continue to meet and talk about the elephant in the room without actually accomplishing anything. Unfortunately, this is how too many facets of our local government work. The HRA oversees land that has remained undeveloped since 1968. The DCR Reuse Committee took a year to develop an RFP that produced 0 responses. The Board of Selectmen's heavy-handed restrictions when issuing licenses create unnecessary roadblocks for local businesses and restaurants, except when the roadblocks create parking lots for them. I am ready, willing, and able to discuss Memorial Middle School anytime, anywhere. If anyone has a serious proposal, then please step up and present it. Otherwise, all you are doing is hurting our schools. You are creating fear and anxiety amongst school department staff, not to mention our children and families. Any serious proposal will be discussed in a serious manner, and public input is always welcome. That is my comment.
Nicely
Eric,
done.
nice job, Eric.
Top that. I'm sure you'll try.
You're up, Ms. Peters.
Wow, tough act to follow. I've been on the board for 8 years. I could go back and check everything, but it has never been in my nature to address an editorial or a letter to the editor in a public forum as a sitting board member. I don't think it's a good practice to do that. I think that we have public meetings, people can come and publicly talk and stuff. The editorial is a person's opinion, and I just actually want to reference a couple sections before I get into my comments. But it starts off and it says, for at least the 3rd time in 15 years, the town is asking the school department whether administrators would be willing to consider consolidating Hull's ever-dwindling student population into the elementary and high schools and give up the middle school. I've been on the committee 8 years. Very similar to Eric's point. No one has ever come forward in this town and asked us formally for these buildings. It's been talked about in coffee shops. It's been talked about at town hall. It's been talked about at bait shops. It's been talked about everywhere except here. The committee that was put together several years ago that reviewed the town, that was put together because we asked it to be put together, because we knew all these discussions were going on. We have staff, we have students, we have families. We are concerned about them. We want to make sure that they know that we believe we need these schools, that we want to keep their children safe and educated. And that is her opinion of what has happened, but no one has ever come to us and asked us formally for it. I am absolutely willing to sit down with anybody, as I believe, and I will speak for the 5 of us, we are willing to talk about these schools. There's no doubt about it. We've opened them with adult education classes. We've tried to make them accessible. We want people in our buildings. But it's very disheartening, and I took it personally. And I try not to do that, but I did, because nobody's come to us. Come and ask us, we'll sit down. The flip side of that is, I do want to plan on the other side. We're supposed to just hand these keys over to a department or a group of people. There is no plan in place. What's happening with the police department as far as the police station? What's happening with the Green Hill Fire Station? Where's the DPW going? The second sentence is, the town would like to use the centrally located Memorial School as a true town center, incorporating Town Hall, the Scully Center, and the Public Library. I've never heard that from the town. I've heard it from people in the town. I've never heard it expressed or brought forward to us. Is the senior center people in on that, or the library people? Have there been discussions that we haven't been invited to the table to? We take our jobs very seriously here, and unfortunately, one of the lines says we don't think that the 5-member school committee solely should decide what is to be done with the school buildings. That's the law. We're the landlords, and it is our decision. As Marianne said, we all pay taxes. I want better roads. I want better seawalls. I want a better town hall. I want the best of everything. But in our role as school committee members, it's to judge what's the best thing for the students. We have, Dr. Terrell, I know, has had conversations with different people in the town. We have extra space. We've acknowledged that. It certainly would be tight. We've met with the library, invited them up. They could fit in the administrative wing. We would dump people into different things. We have tried, and we have outreached. So to say that we've sat here and bobbed and weaved, we've never bobbed and weaved. We've been very adamant. We have space. We cannot accommodate all these things and without the education being impacted with the students. So no, you cannot have an entire building, but we certainly want to help. We want to be a part of a community solution. Come to us and ask us. As Eric said, we were invited to a meeting. We had all our administrators. We were very willing to have a healthy public discussion about what our needs were versus what their needs were. And the meeting was canceled the night before. I certainly understand there are quorum issues and that people are busy, but we take our job seriously. And there is just a lot of questions out there that need to be answered. And to put this on the ballot for a non-binding question, certainly, it's America. God bless all of us that we live here and that it's a great country. Certainly put it on there, but I do not believe we're going to be bullied, which is what I think that this sort of did to us, into making a decision to turn over a set of our children and impact their education. We've come too far. We've worked too hard. We've had too many budget cuts and too many, children's education hurt through that process to just hand over a set of keys because the town hall is falling down. I get it. We want better, but I think there needs to be a very thoughtful and public process as far as this goes, with a lot of answers on the other end. Quite frankly, do we need the town hall as big as it is? Have we looked at moving things like technology-wise as far as the town hall goes? Shouldn't we be scanning stuff in and making ourselves a virtual town hall so that people can get the information from their computers as opposed to going up there? So we don't need that much space. I mean, they had cuts on their side. There's not a lot of employees up there. What are the sizes that we need? We have an elderly population, and their stuff is crumbling down, and we should provide some more opportunities as far as that goes. There are a whole host of things that, as a townsperson, I would like. But as a school committee member, our number one job is the students and the children in this town, and happy to talk about it. Come ask us, invite us to meetings, let's have some discussions about it. But please do not put in here, because I do take it personally, after lots of bobbing and weaving and shuffling around. This board is transparent, we're collegial, we may not agree on everything, but we respect each other and we respect our opinions, so please do not put those words and associate them with us. We've tried to do, we certainly have made some missteps and we could do a lot of things better, but we've done a heck of a lot of things right. I think we've shown that we want to work together, and I guess that is all I have to say. Although one of the biggest pieces for me is this MSBA piece, and I would, as a board, I guess I would like to ask Dr. Terrell to formally get in touch with them and say, what are the ramifications? Because again, through side channels and coffee shops and different meetings, we've been told that we'll be off the hook for all the MSBA debt because we paid it out of here, we paid it out of there. I would like some type of formal ruling for them before we even begin the discussions, because a $20 million, a $5 million solution could turn into a $13 million problem if somebody's looking for that debt. And I know that there's been comments that, oh, well, there's a clause in one of the things, but it will jeopardize things down the road for us too in 20 years if we need something here and we're on the naughty list with them. So I don't know if that's within our purview to ask you to do that, or.
If that's the will of the committee, I'd be
If
happy
we need a
to.
motion, I think that's an excellent idea. I don't know what's the rest
I
of
would
it?
like them to be formally contacted to say, could you please review our contracts with you? Because it's not just the middle school if we give that up. Then we have to displace central office, so there's children in different things, and we have, some classrooms that we have to keep substantially separate. So it might jeopardize some of the Jacob School funding. So I guess I'd like a formal,
I called them Friday, and they told me if I make the request in writing, they will give us an answer in writing. So if that's the will,
as a committee, I think that's a big first step for
I
us.
think that's the first step. Yep, let's get that
is
information.
that the will of the committee?
Aye.
Aye. If you need-
Is there a motion? Do you
I'll make a
want to
motion.
do it that
Yeah,
formally?
go ahead.
Okay.
Do a motion, Stephanie.
me-
I'd like to make a motion to have Dr. Tyrrell formally request from the Massachusetts School Building Authority an opinion on,
The ramifications of using the
ramifications-
memorial school for non-educational purposes, would that be your
sure,
motion?
that would be my motion.
Exactly.
For using the more.
We have a second to that?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hart. Ms. Hart, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, unanimous.
I
I
don't,
will do that tomorrow.
we clearly all came to the table tonight with, that we wanted to get our feelings out there. We don't have our backs up. We may appear that because we are mad. But we want to be part of the conversation. We're taxpayers. We have children, and hopefully I'm going to be living here long after my children are out of the schools. I believe as a board, we want the best for the town, but we also need to be brought in as part of the conversation and make sure that the children are well-educated and safe.
One other, just
How'd I
quick.
do?
You did excellent.
Oh, wait, we didn't give her.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, you did good.
very competitive.
I don't want to belabor this whole discussion, but one thing, that whole editorial, people don't realize that really demoralized the Memorial School. I know that Dr. Terrell had to talk to the principal down there. A lot of teachers were upset, the staff. For that type of editorial that came into the newspaper, people were really stunned, and I urge parents, if you're watching this tonight, you better get engaged fast, because if you don't, they're going to just run right over you. So I'm not trying to make a threat or anything, but people really got to pay attention to what's going on. And if they're in favor of it, then that's fine. But if they're opposed to it, they got to start watching the meetings and start paying attention to what's going on in town, because it's going to happen if you sit back.
And
Go ahead.
may I compliment the veteran staff members at the Memorial School for doing what they could to keep the morale up of the younger staff members who are hearing this for the first time, for the newer teachers. And the principal on Friday afternoon had a faculty meeting, and certainly there were teachers who were quite concerned. And what I don't want people to do is to blow the dust off their resumes as we're improving everything at the middle school because of their concerns. So I appreciate the work of the principal and the veteran teachers. They are holding things together during a difficult time for the staff at the Memorial School.
And we have Mr. Bennett has a comment back there.
Thank you. And I'm asking this question as a citizen, absolutely nothing to do with my volunteer work. I moved here in 2009, moved back. My family's lived here forever. I kind of came in with absolutely no opinion about anything of this town, other than it was fun when I was here as a kid. What I've seen since I've come back is that there is an us versus them mentality. It's huge. It's town government versus the school system. And as you said, all sorts of rumors are floating out there. I personally don't know what's fact and what's fiction on either side. Dr. Terrell, you're basically the town manager of the schools, correct?
Much better looking.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. To put all the rumors to rest, and maybe to actually get fact out there, is there a mechanism where yourself and town manager could actually appear in public and actually settle it, because I think disinformation is killing both sides. I don't think anybody in the town really knows what the heck's going on. Do we need the school? Don't we need the school? Who's asking for the school? Has anybody actually asked for the school? You know, would there be a good place to have a public forum with you and town manager to kind of tell the town, hey, this is what's going on, and to actually start working on something, or working on nothing? Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
If I may answer your questions. 5 or 6 years ago, the town manager told me that he thought it was a good idea. That's, and it was not in a formal setting or anything of that sort. I certainly agree with you on information is a necessary thing, but I'm not the decision maker. And as the school committee mentioned, the law is that the school committee, to use a portion of a school building for non-educational purposes, requires a vote of the school committee to turn that to the town. Then the superintendent of schools is required to notify the school building authority. And then the school building authority will take whatever action they deem fit. So I'm not the decision maker, but I'm certainly willing to be part of any discussion.
Well, just let me add something. I think the forum, just from talking to town, being on the capital planning committee, I think that's going to be the forum where the discussion will occur, if it occurs. But they did reach out to us, or we reached out to them, I can't remember, back in like November. There was some talks about trying to schedule a meeting. It got canceled. So now we're in the process of trying to reschedule that meeting. So I would assume that it would occur at the capital planning committee. Phil Lemnios is part of that, and a couple of Board of Selectmen members, and some other people that were on the building committee are on that committee also, including myself.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions or comments on this? All right, very